Brain rot is ruining LEGO YouTube. It's changed everything for the worse, and honestly, it's all legitimately terrible content. If you watch a lot of LEGO content on YouTube, you're probably well aware of this change, and maybe you've shared this sentiment yourself of feeling frustrated with the way that content has been going on this platform, specifically within the LEGO niche. I feel like this has been a topic of discussion for a while now, actually, but for whatever reason, it seems to be resurfacing again, and I've seen a couple people make videos about it, because I watch a lot of LEGO content myself, and so I'm seeing small creators complain about this and some others complain as well. And so I thought that I would add my 2 cents into here because I'm a full-time LEGO content creator. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I think it's actually a more nuanced topic than people give it credit for. It's easy to just come through with a blanket statement like brain rot is ruining LEGO YouTube, and maybe you'll get some clicks and views from it. I mean, that's what I'm doing with this video in some ways, right? But I think that it's a discussion that is an interesting one because there are reasons that people are making their content the way they are. And so let's dive into that a little bit and just kind of have a discussion here. If you have your thoughts, put them in the comments down below. I would love to engage with you guys on this topic of conversation. I'm sure everybody's going to have different opinions, but let's go ahead and get into the topic. To start with, I think it's pretty important to clarify what brain rot actually is, because I think this term is thrown around and is just used pretty loosely. But really what I think a lot of people are talking about when they talk about brain rot LEGO content is the faster paced Mr. Beast style content. I think what's missing when you use the term brain rot is that brain rot is inherently supposed to be like low quality. There's a lot of low quality LEGO content that's low effort and it's just there to bait you into clicking on it. And I'm not going to discount that, but I think people call things brain rot that aren't actually brain rot. Like, just because it's fast paced does not mean that it's brain rot. For example, let's look at the B3, right? The B3 is a great example for this, I think, because the B3 makes fast paced content, but it's high quality, it's engaging, it's creative. I think that there's actually quite a lot of inherent value in the B3's content. Now, it is faster paced, and you could maybe say, well, then it's brain rot, but I would disagree. I don't think that that counts as brain rot. There are plenty of channels out there that do count as brain rot, in my opinion. I'm not going to name any of them because I don't want to tick anybody off here, but I think the difference with a lot of those channels is that they sort of rely on cheap tricks to get a click from you. A lot of these brain rot LEGO videos might have some weird looking minifigure in the thumbnail. It's, you know, when you click on the video, you can tell that this was just thrown together by somebody who doesn't actually care about the content that they're making. It feels cheap. It feels lazy. And really, it's playing to the lowest common denominator. It's made for kids who are just consuming content, maybe on an iPad or a TV, and it's there to farm views. I think it's important to look at why this content exists in the first place, though, because really, it's come about because YouTube in general has changed. It's not just because of LEGO YouTube or, you know, like I really don't think it's fair to just blame creators like TD Bricks or Generic Stud or Sacred Bricks for making faster paced content. I mean, sure, they ushered in a new wave of content style and editing and packaging and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of brought over from the gaming niche, but I don't think you can just sit here and blame them for it and get frustrated with them about it. This type of content is here because the meta has changed. And it's likely that if you don't like the faster paced brain rot content, if you want to call it that, it's probably because you're just not the target demographic. If you're watching this video, you probably are not the target demographic for that type of video. But what I really want to speak to here is from the creator side of things, because that's the perspective that I have on it. So I think it's important to ask, why are people making this faster paced style of content? What is inherently better about it, and what makes it something that's appealing for creators to make? I think that the LEGO YouTube space kind of fits in this weird pocket because of a couple of different factors, where it's actually more appealing to make that style of content in some ways than it is to make slower paced content. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit. I talk with friends about LEGO YouTube. I have a number of friends who are also content creators, and I think that something that we hear from people from time to time who've been watching LEGO YouTube for a while is something along the lines of, hey, why can't LEGO YouTube just go back to the way that it used to be? I think that LEGO YouTube was peak when there was mock series and stop motions were at their height, and that's what good LEGO YouTube was for me. And from some of these same people, I hear this kind of characterization of people who make faster paced content, it's almost as if they view the content creators who make this faster paced content as like some greedy Mr. Krabs type of character who just wants money, 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 you know? But I don't think it's quite as simple as that. To be honest, like when you look at mock series, for example, I think that mock series are a dead format, in my opinion. I could make a whole video about this. I actually probably will at some point on this channel because I think it's another interesting topic to talk about. But with these newer types of content coming in, it's because of how YouTube is shifting it all as a whole, not just because of how LEGO YouTube is shifting. So when you look at the people who are making these types of content, there are actually a number of reasons why they are making those decisions. To begin with, YouTube is just far more competitive now than it used to be. There are over 720,000 hours of content uploaded every single day. Like new content every day. That's ridiculous. Like that's impossible to comprehend in some ways. And so when you are a content creator and you're uploading a piece of content, maybe it's an 8-minute video or something like that, you're competing against those hundreds of thousands of hours of content that everybody else is putting up. So you have to be able to convince the viewer to click on your video and to engage with it and watch it and enjoy it. And you have to kind of present there's this value proposition that goes on there where you have to show people that it's worth your time to click on my video, and it's actually more worth your time to click on my video versus somebody else's video. And so this starts to cause content creators to make certain decisions to try and push their videos as far as they can to be able to get the click and the view, because ultimately that's how you make money on YouTube. And I think that there is a distinction to be made there, because if you're a hobbyist who's just making videos for fun, you can kind of make whatever you want because performance isn't as important, right? You don't need to get as many views. But when you're a full-time content creator, you kind of do need to get views, right? That's part of the game. And so if you're trying to make a living off of it, you have to make stuff that's going to get clicks and is going to get views. And on top of that, your videos have to be effective in their presentation and their communication, because the moment somebody else gets bored, they can go watch one of those, 720,000 hours worth of content if they want to, and it doesn't have to be your video. Or they can go watch the whole backlog of content that's available on YouTube. So competition is really steep, and you are actually fighting against other people to get views. So with all of that in mind, if you're in my shoes, right? If you're a full-time content creator, you kind of have two ways in which you can grow your channel. You can grow your channel based off of viewership, or you can grow your channel based off of community. And to go down each of these paths, like it's possible to do either one of them, right? But it is very different depending on which direction you decide to go. And there's a number of factors that play into making that choice. If you want to monetize through your community, right, you should be able to get some money from YouTube AdSense. And I think that there's, obviously this perception out there that content creators make crazy amounts of money and stuff like that. A lot of the LEGO content creators that I know are making less than what we could be making if we were working in a more traditional job, at least at the beginning. And maybe that changes over time, but by and large, like the vast majority of full-time content creators are not making hundreds of thousands or millions and millions of dollars. That's a very small portion of people. And so if you want to monetize through community, you need to make content that appeals to an audience that actually has money, which means you need to make content that appeals to adults because kids do not have money. So a couple of ways that you might do this could be through like Patreon, for example, or channel memberships, or maybe you make merch or a product or custom minifigures or something like that if you're in the LEGO space. These are ways that you can supplement the lower viewership with products or other things that you can sell to increase your bottom line so you can make a livable wage doing content creation. Now, the inherent difficulty with this approach is the fact that LEGO is a kid's toy. And so the majority of viewers of LEGO content on the platform are kids. So if you're going after a community monetization approach, you're going for a smaller section of that audience. On the other side of things, you could monetize strictly through viewership. And to do that, you almost need to make content that is targeted towards kids specifically, because they're the ones who are watching content on the platform. Not to say that there aren't people my age or adults that are watching content on YouTube, but I'm specifically talking about LEGO content viewers. A lot of them are children. Monetizing through viewership alone means that you're removing the burden from your audience of trying to get them to pay for something or buy something, and it's a free consumption model. The other thing that you're likely to do in this type of category is to be able to work towards getting sponsorships. You're going to be limited in the types of sponsorships that you can get if you're making content that's more geared towards a younger audience because they don't have a lot of buying power. So advertisers are less likely to purchase ad space in your videos, if you want to call it that. But there are still plenty of advertisers out there that will work with you and will sponsor your content. So this is often the direction that people end up going because most of us, if not all of us, start out making LEGO content as a hobby. And then you'll see people's content kind of transform over time in a lot of cases to being more geared towards kids to try and reach this wider audience with more viewership. And whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, kids who are younger are more invested and interested in faster paced content that has more happening and it gives you more of a dopamine rush. Now, I think we all can probably agree that this isn't the greatest thing, but really that's kind of the option in a lot of scenarios, unless you want to slow grind and build a community with an older audience. Now, actual brain rot is a problem. And as a content creator, it really frustrates me, to be honest with you, because you see all of this content coming out that's low effort, low quality, and it gets a ridiculous amount of views because they've done a great job with packaging the content and making it clickable. As somebody who tries to make higher quality content, that I'm actually trying to make that has some sort of soul in it or something like that, it's frustrating because I now have to compete with this. I have to convince somebody to watch my video over one of these brain rot videos. So this is what's led me to try and find some sort of middle ground for my content. And to be honest, I'm still not sure if this is exactly the right approach. I think there's many approaches that you can take and not just one right approach, but for me, I've been trying to make videos that are slower paced, that can be enjoyed by kids, but also are tolerable for adults to watch because adults don't want stuff thrown in their faces every 2 seconds. And so I use the more meta style thumbnail that gets viewership and clicks, but my videos are actually slower. And this is something I hear people complaining about as well. There's people who will complain about these thumbnails. They don't like the style. They don't like the eye-bleeding, saturating colors, and I agree. I mean, I don't think they're visually appealing either. I worked as a graphic designer for a number of years before getting into YouTube, and so I know what looks good. I know what good design looks like, and maybe these thumbnails have good composition, but they are painful to look at. But the reason they're designed the way they are is because they attract your eyes and get you to click on them. And, I wish it wasn't this way. I wish that just aesthetic thumbnails could get clicks, but with the way that YouTube is now and what you're going up against, that's the type of stuff that you kind of have to do. You can go against the grain if you want to, but you're just not going to get views if you do. It's unfortunate, but I honestly think that's the reality. I mean, I've actually run hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands of thumbnail tests at this point. I've tried different styles of thumbnails. I've tried thumbnails that I think are more aesthetically pleasing, and I'll put them up. I use like an external A/B tester for thumbnails, and people always click on the more eye-bleeding, saturating colors. They don't click on the stuff that's just more aesthetic. And I just think that's part of the niche that we're in and the way things are. And also the other types of content that kids are watching. If you're looking at Minecraft gaming thumbnails, they look the same as the stuff from LEGO YouTube. It's really bright colors. It's a split screen thing. It's a comparison left to right. And that's just kind of how it is. So it's not one of those things where you can kind of just decide, oh, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to be the one who's going to be different. To make that change, I mean, maybe you can make that change, but so far I've been unsuccessful in trying to do that. So I know I've been talking about this from the content creator side of things a lot. I mean, that's obviously my perspective as somebody who does this as their job, but I always found these types of videos interesting even before I started making content. I've been watching YouTube since like 2007, and I always think it's interesting to hear the perspectives of creators and, kind of what they're doing and why they're making the choices that they're making. So hopefully this is interesting for you guys. As a viewer, I don't like the brain rot stuff any more than you do, I'm sure. And my solution to that is I just choose not to watch it. I tell YouTube to stop recommending that stuff to me, and I move on from it. And I think that, yeah, it's easy for us to kind of sit and complain about this and wish that things were the way that they used to be. But I think that's just the reality of the internet, the times that we're in, and the fact that things are changing. And I don't see this changing anytime soon necessarily. The only way that this type of content is going to go away is if people stop watching it. As long as there is an audience for it, it's a thing that's going to exist, whether right or wrong. And in some ways, we kind of just have to accept that. And I think that the only way that we can get past that is for content creators to continue to try new things, to innovate, and try to make content that is enjoyable for people to watch while putting in effort. Try to create high quality content. Try to create stuff that's valuable for people to watch. I think that people give us as creators the gift of their time, and that's something that they can't get back. So I don't want to be the type of person to waste somebody's time, waste somebody's life by presenting garbage for them to watch. So I just try not to do that. This is probably a little bit rambly. I didn't really script this thing, but regardless, let's get some conversation going in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your guys' perspective on this issue. And thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one.